day to everyone who has registered a copy of the recording. Okay, so we're going to start off with permissions. Now, permissions are quite extensive in .cms, and so it's going to take a few hours to go ahead and go over, maybe an hour and a half, to go over all of the permissions and how you set up a complete role. But I'm only covering everything that you possibly can do, explaining how everything works. Whenever you actually need to apply role permissions, it takes about 2 minutes or less. So it really isn't difficult to actually do in practice, but knowing the order in which things should probably be permissioned and thought about or constructed before permissioning, a lot of this theory and best practice comes into play with knowledge of the system. And the more that you permission user roles, the more comfortable you will become. And of course, there's plenty of different ways to authenticate with OAuth 2, SAML, Active Directory, LDAP. Yeah, those all have a certain mechanism with the role key, so I'll be explaining that as I go along as well. After we cover permissions, we're going to go to the basics on URL maps, on content types, the basic setup of the rules engine, although we won't get into a lot of programming there. It'll be just the basics, and then that will continue on in the web developer course, which will continue later on. So let's go ahead and start up by looking at this basic scheme here. The first thing, the reason I've set up on this content architect agenda the host and the parent folders and the level of permissions is because this is the exact order in which you should think about applying new role permissions. And what do I mean by I think the host is readily apparent, but parent folders and work folders and how they're different. Well, the host is just going to be the website or websites that the user has permissions to. Then a parent folder might be something like departments. That wouldn't necessarily be a place where anybody would be contributing content. But maybe inside of that departments directory, you have human resources, or you have marketing, or you have IT. And there would be different user groups that are inside of each of those directories, maybe managing pages, different portions of the site, etc. So every one of the user roles you might create for marketing or IT or human resources would need at least view to the parent departments folder. However, they wouldn't be creating new pages or managing any content or uploading any new documents to that folder. The work folder, give me 1 second for plane overhead here. Okay, sorry. The work folder would be the IT, marketing, human resources directory in which you would give permissions to each individual user role that corresponded to that department, and they would have something more than view. They would have at least view and edit or view and publish over the pages and the documents that they were uploading to those directories. So that's what I mean by parent folder and a work folder. It is hierarchical. So you could give full publish permissions on a work folder and they would have no access whatsoever to any site or to view anything on that site. You need to give for everything up above that work folder that they would need to access to be able to get down to that work folder. They need at least view so that they can actually go down the tree and get to that final destination. It is hierarchical, and that way, from any level, permissions can be controlled differently based upon different user groups. So it's very granular. And it's intended to be that way on purpose and is more powerful because of that. And you don't accidentally do something higher up by doing something down below, because that's cascading permissions, which actually would be a very bad thing. It would cause a lot of unintentional permissioning to things that could, violate business rules and stuff like that. So content types, we're going to talk about all the different types of content types you need to think about. There's content, there's pages, there's files, there's forms, there's widgets, all the different types of content types and the type of level of permissions that you need there. Then the taxonomy methodologies, categories, as well as templates, containers, if you're going to use relationships, the content types, that the main content type is related to, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to go down these things in order right now. So I'm looking at the standard.cms demo site, and let's just say there is a products section here, and so we want someone to log in and only manage things inside this products directory on demo.cms.com. We don't want them to see anything else whatsoever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a products manager, and maybe inside of this directory I would put 2 folders. Maybe I want marketing. I'll create a marketing section, no show on menu. This is just for uploading maybe banner material or something like that. And then I'll put a new folder here, and I'll just call it images, right? And then maybe I'll put another folder, and this is for VTL files, which would be like, programming files. So we're only going to give this products manager access to create things in this folder and to upload images here. And that's all they'll see. But the marketing would go to a marketing role. The VTL maybe would go to the webmaster, so they would be able to create, dynamic widgets or something like that. Although normally we put those things, we abstract them out to a different website, or we put them up here in the application directory. But I'm just providing a couple of different examples on how you can permission maybe one folder within a main folder, but you don't have to permission the user to everything, right? And we'll give this user in the products directory itself access to the pages and things that are here. So the first thing we're going to do is go to System. So I'm going to go to System down here and Roles and Tools. And I'm going to create a new parent role. Now you can nest roles, one inside the other. So if I actually clicked on one of these roles, contributor, and I added a new role, you would see that then the parent of this this would be a sub child of contributor role. And so if I created it, it would appear underneath contributor, and contributor would basically be considered a manager of this child of contributor role. And whatever I gave to the child would automatically be received also by the contributor, the reviewer, and the publisher legal. In this case, there is reverse role inheritance. Normally, whenever you give access to a folder, then you create child objects, then the user roles would get access to that as well. However, this, in the case of role inheritance, it works backwards, and it works backwards on purpose with a reverse role inheritance, because here we consider the publisher legal the main manager of the reviewer role and the contributor role. So if we give some new content type and we give the contributor permissions to maybe view and edit over that content type, it would be kind of redundant and doesn't seem to make much sense if the reviewer and the publisher legal then had to also be individually permissioned on that. So we avoid that by nesting the roles in the first place. If we want them to be separate, then we wouldn't nest the roles, right? But if you say that you want the contributor and the reviewer, whatever they do, to be controlled by the publisher legal, then you just give something to the contributor, the reviewer, and the publisher legal role will automatically get access to it as well. If I give something just to the reviewer role, then the reviewers and publisher legal role users would have access to it. The contributor would not. And if I give something just to publisher legal, the reviewer and the contributor can't see it at all. Okay? So it's a reverse role hierarchy. However, I'm not going to create anything here. I'm just going to refresh to make sure I don't have that selected. But you could use the control on your button or the command on a Mac to select and deselect a role. So now that I'm deselected, I'm going to add a new role name. Now, whenever you're naming roles, if you're in a multi-tenant environment, if you only have one site that you're managing with .cms, it doesn't make much difference. But if you're in a multi-tenant environment, I would suggest that your roles be 3 names rather than 2, and that the first one have something to do with the website that they're currently on. So I'm managing demo.cms.com with this role, so maybe I would use a one-word demo, right, to refer to the site that this user has access over. All right, and then I would, what area of the site are they going to manage? So products, right? And then what level? Now, I typically would only enter publishers first, and then later, if those publishers needed assistance, that they don't have rights to publish anything and they pass to the publishers, then I would create those roles later. So for me, my nomenclature, you can have your own. A publisher is someone who can actually make things live on the website or accessible to the mobile apps, whatever. They can publish content. A contributor would be, in my own nomenclature, you can use your own, would be someone who can never publish anything live on the site. They have to pass it through workflow to someone else to publish, right? So no matter what, using that 3-name convention scheme, you can read, demo website, product, publisher, and that tells you everything you need to know. Using acronyms or codes inside of these role names is unsuccessful. I've seen it done and usually gets reversed later on, and it's quite painful. Now, the role key, I like to camel case things like role keys, Okay. So the role key would be fed to whoever is controlling. If you're not authenticating with .cms, which most clients do not, they authenticate with SAML or OAuth2 or LDAP or whatever. So you would, in your external system, say you're using Active Directory groups. So let me put this up for instance here. Where is my text wrangler? Okay, there we go. So I've created this role in the system, and I know that Susie, Sam, and Ralph, they all need to be product publishers on .cms, right? And those user groups, they also, let me just make this a little bit bigger. Okay. So I know that they have, several of other Active Directory groups that have to do with the organization and not with .cms at all, right? So I need something in this name which actually is configured inside of .cms, and we have documentation on how to, just set up the configuration to communicate with your validation system, whatever it happens to be. We support pretty much anyone, and we've got several clients running, no matter what type it is. From Federal Reserve banks to down to much more simpler implementations. So I need something to actually say that this is a .cms role, and that needs to be in the configuration, a prefix. So maybe they belong to internally, so to products, AD group, and they belong to the employee AD group, right? All 3 of them. However, what we're going to do before an AD group that is a .cms AD group, Active Directory, right, is we're going to put some sort of prefix that's in the configuration. It can be anything. Let's just say it's .cms_, right? So Susie or Sam or Ralph try to authenticate with .cms. Hey, we're configured not to even try. So we're going to point over to this validation system, and then it notices that Susie, who's trying to log in, she has the .cms demo product publisher AD group, the product AD group that has nothing to do with .cms, the employee AD group has nothing to do with .cms. So what the validation system will do is, whenever you're trying to log into .cms, not an internal thing, right, is it would ignore those 2, right? The second thing it would do is strip off the prefix here that's configured, right? And then it would assign if Susie was the one that was logging in, to this role key after creating the user, Susie, whoever, using all the information from Active Directory. So all of the user information, of course, is going to be stored. The first name, the last name, the email, everything is going to be in any validation system. So whenever we come back to .cms, we create the user with the information configured to communicate with the Active Directory group, or OAuth or whatever. We create the user, assign them to the role by key, right? And everything just syncs. So they've never logged in before. They don't even have a user. They're either non-existent user, isn't assigned to any role, and the second they validate, they log in just fine. The user's created, they're assigned to one or more roles by the role key, and everything just works perfectly, right? So as long as you give to your sysadmins who are managing those AD groups, and you say, hey, include these users inside of, this AD group that has, .cms underscore, or maybe more than one, which I do suggest you have like, I'm going to suggest today that they belong to more than one, and that all of your users who are publishers get this role as well. And I'll show you why in just a minute. Okay, so that just happens. So I save that new role into the system. Now, the second that I click on that publisher role, I can see I can start granting users access to this role, or I can click on permissions, and I can go ahead and start adding permissions. And then there's tools, which, they want to see the home tab, the site browser, the content manager, the marketing, tab. Do you want to see all these things? Or do you want to make a new custom tool group and make it be any combination of any tools that you wish? Totally customizable, everything in .cms. So the first thing you would do is go to permissions. And once again, I'm going back to the planning here. Host and parent folders with what permission level? One checkbox, view only. I'm literally meaning one checkbox whenever I put one thing here. And if you notice, it's really, really simple whenever you look at this scheme. There's only two things on this scheme that you aren't doing a one checkbox for. Literally, this is one click, this is one click, this is one click, this is one click, right? The only thing that you're doing, still one click actually, but you're clicking the publish or the edit instead of just the view, is work folders and content types. That's it. So you really, once you get used to it, you don't have to do much thinking about it. Now this right here is all websites. So this is kind of like, it's not, I'm logged in as the admin user, right? Which is, Zeus on Mount Olympus, right? I've got access to every part of the system no matter what. This level would be kind of like the Hercules, the demigod, maybe there was one particular organization I'm thinking of that there were template creators for over 1,000 websites. That one group was creating new templates and containers and themes for over 1,000 different individual sites, and they were launching 20 different sites a week on .cms using copy host and everything like that. Yep, real client. And so they had particular HTML and design guys that had this type of permission, that on every single host they could just access all containers, all templates, all template layouts, and set things up so that people could start then using new templates on all of those sites. But that's very atypical whenever you don't have some sort of master organization that's in control of multiple sites. Then you would just start off here, right? So sorry, I've got this on a demo server here, but so I would add demo.cms.com. I would check view, apply changes, and I'm done with this first part. See, it's really easy whenever and that's why I said it only takes 2 minutes whenever somebody's not explaining all of the things that I am explaining, right? Parent folders, we need view. Okay, so what is that parent folder? We can do it right here. We don't need to go to the site browser, although we could. I can just click down here and say, well, he needs access to the products, folder. So I'm going to add products folder and just say view, right? And let's just say this person's only going to be uploading images inside of the products directory. Then this is all I would need to do. And it will say, hey, this products folder was inheriting permissions from demo.cms.com. In order to not cut off the people who previously had access to the products folder, we're going to copy the permissions that used to be inherited from demo.icms.com and apply them to the products directory. So what you need to do is, after you say OK to that, you need to go to the site browser and say, OK, well, what was previously here on the products directory that was getting inherited from demo.icms.com? So you might want to right-click and look at that and get rid of any extraneous roles that you don't want. So we go to permissions on that folder, and we can see, in addition to our new demo product publisher, there was a contributor role that maybe we just want to get rid of, apply those changes, and all good. Now, CMS Anonymous is the outside public that isn't logged in, and CMS Anonymous cannot be used as a back-end login. So it's completely innocuous. You don't have to worry about it. And it's very important to leave that on every folder and page unless it's an intranet folder. If you want to make something intranet to force a login anytime someone hits a page URL or a folder URL, then just take off CMS Anonymous completely, apply, and then the second you hit that page, it will go to a login page by default and say you must log in to be able to see this page or this directory, and then it'll look at their permissions once they try to log in. Okay, so but CMS Anonymous should be on every folder that is meant to expose files or pages or folders. So you can just pretty much leave that alone and just make sure your new roles are there. All right, I'm going to set it up actually so that on this website browser tree, maybe the user only has access to upload new images here, right? So this would be my child directory, and they can't see this one or this one. So now I could just permission it by right-clicking and going to permissions on the folder, but I'm going to continue from the roles. Okay, just to show you can do it from either place. Now I can go inside of the products directory and then go to images and add the images directory. Now here I'm going to allow the user to add children. Add children is kind of like a, can you add new objects? That's it, new children. It should probably say add new instead of add children. And then these are all the different types of children that you can add. So what am I going to allow this user to add within this images directory? Create a new folder, sure, if they want to subdivide their images. So I will allow them to add folders. Create new pages, sure, I guess. Although that'd be strange inside of an image directory. Create menu links, maybe not. Content types, if I assign a content type to this specific folder, then sure. Content or files, certainly, that live within this directory. Change rules engine rules for content within this directory. Probably not. In most cases, you would not give a content publisher the ability to, on a local level, change page mark, rules engine rules and stuff like that. So I'm going to apply these changes, and once again, it tells me it was inheriting permissions. But if I go here to my site browser, then it tells me inside the images directory that it only inherited what was already in the products directory, and that was only CMS Anonymous and my product publisher role. So everything's all good inside of that images directory as well, right? And it inherited the permissions there that I just placed while on the role. Okay, and you can add roles or you can add users individually to anything. And if it's nested, you can then just choose, something down under here and add that nested role as well, right? Okay, so now I've done the host, a parent folder, and a work folder. Now I need to think about what types of content is this user going to create. And then are there any, and once you look at the content types, you can see whether the content type has a taxonomy on it, like a category, and then, set that up so that you're keeping track of, and you need to permission those categories as well. So let's go to content types. And the first thing I like to start off with is just kind of doing this. Say, okay, if this person's going to upload files, which content type are they going to use? right? So I'm just going to allow the file asset content type. They're not going to upload, a specific document content type. There's just kind of one for images and documents and whatever they want. They don't need specificity. So I'm just going to go to file asset, permissions, permission individually, add the new role that I just added, publish. Now here's where you need to think. Now there may be many of these particular file assets already in the system, but do I want the user to have access to all of the files that have already been uploaded on the demo site into the database? Or do I just want this user to have access to file assets that are created from now moving forward? If I just say, just from now moving forward, all the new stuff that they create, other people create and assign to the products folder, then I don't need to cascade. If I want everything that's already been created in the system to be accessible by this new user role, then I would check the checkbox. And what this is going to do is it's going to go down into the database on every file that's ever been uploaded that is of type file asset, and it's going to re-permission those, adding this new demo product publisher role. Okay, but you don't have to do that. I'm going to choose not to do that. I'm just going to apply the changes to the content type. And from now moving forward, file assets stored in the product directory this user will have access to. But I'll cascade on another content type in just a second and show you that. So here, now I'm done with files. Now pages. That's what I do next, and then I do regular content types last. If this user is going to create pages, then are they going to create landing pages? And I'll leave that for the marketing team, just a regular page asset. So I click on page asset. I'm looking to see whether there's any categories. Of course, not on a page. I go to permissions, and I'm going to add that new user role. Permission individually. It was inheriting permissions, and publish and apply. Don't have access to previous things. Now, just the new ones that this person creates or this user role creates. All right. Now, I'm done with files and pages. So now I go back to my content types. Do I want to give them any widgets that they can use? You know what? Maybe. Let me see what widgets there are. Product category widget. Maybe I'll do that. Photo carousel, YouTube. Let's just do something simple. YouTube. So there's no categories here. You got to take note of that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cascade the permissions so that this user can. And I'm going to say, maybe I don't want this user grabbing any video, this user role grabbing any video from YouTube and placing it on a page. But maybe I want them to just view and be able to use, and I'm going to apply to all the videos that are already uploaded into the system. I'm going to give them access to be able to just place a pre-existing YouTube widget on a page. Okay, so just by clicking view, then saying reset all the existing videos, that means any of the widget content types, which if we look at what's in here, here's YouTube. So .cms and Amazon Echo Part 1, how does a mutual fund work, all of these videos, they will be able to drop any of these videos on a page, but they won't be able to create new ones with the permission settings that I just gave by clicking view only on that content type. Okay, then the last thing, we'll do regular content types. And in the regular content types, and let me look at key value pairs while we're at it. This is for language variables. This is really normally only for webmasters to be able to create things like basically variables, so that if we go to content, we click search, we go to language variables, you can see there aren't any in the system. But if I wanted to create, a key called submit, and in English the value is submit, and I wanted to save and publish, and then I wanted to create a Spanish value of, okay, I'll say yes, And I'll do the Spanish translation. And so now I've got a language key that if I want to call that by key on a button on a form that I've created, I can now just do, there's a particular tool we have for multilingual. You just do text.get, submit, and then in whatever language you happen to be in the browser, it will show the language version, the appropriate language version. So that's what those are for. Let me actually look under advanced and all languages, and we can see the two keys there. They're part of the same content type. If I looked at either one, I would be able to see both versions of themselves. If I look at history, I see both versions here with one identifier. I just text.get submit, and it's going to give me either the English version or the Spanish version, depending upon the language flag I click on the front end. So that's what just didn't want to. I wanted to make sure I've covered kind of all, content types and what they're for. But we're going to go to regular content types now, and we're going to go to maybe the generic content type. Let's see, maybe the movies content type. So let's go to generic and permissions. And this one we're going to cascade, just like the widget. Oops, wrong roll. And let's see what other regular content types we want. That had no category either. So let me pick something that actually has a category. Here's our movie genre. So I'm going to go to permissions. I'm going to permission individually and add this. Publish. And I'll reset and apply. Okay. And okay. So then once I've got my content types, maybe I'll also give them the news content type. And let's just do, I think there's a promotion content type. I want to show you something specific. There we go. Now this one does not have a host or folder field, which I think is by default normally a mistake, and I want to show you why. So I'm going to permission the user to this as well. Permission individually, add this product publisher role, and publish, and sure. Okay, so then once we're done with content types, we needed to take a look at all of our fields and see if there's any categories. Now we only have one category on one content type. That's the genres for movies. So all you have to do is come over here to your main parent category. After you do your content types, you do categories, and what do? One checkbox, right? For templates, one checkbox. For containers, one checkbox. That's it. So on my permissions for my genre parent category, I permission individually, add my new role, check my one box, and apply. Done. That's it. That's all of the genres are now permissioned because they are inheriting from the main parent genre. So I step to any of the children like biography and I go to permissions. We can see it's inheriting its permissions from genre and the demo product publisher is already there. I could break away the permissions and take away from this user some, permissions, but I do not want to do that. Okay, so after those content types, then I need to think about containers and templates. So you do the templates first so you can see what containers are being used by those templates. I'm going to give a one-column option and a two-column option. And I'm going to make them both quest. So I'm going to go to quest one column and allow them to use this pre-existing template. Sure, it's just using the large one-column container. I'm going to go to permissions, product publisher, view one checkbox, done, right? And then what other template? I said I was going to give them a two-column template as well, and I'm making a mental note the large container needs to be permissioned. and to column with side navigation on the left-hand side, and which containers are being used by this template. That same large column 1, so I don't have to do anything extra there. I don't want them to mess with the subnav menu on the left-hand side, but maybe I also want to give them default 2, right, on this underneath the main nav. So go to permissions, I apply my demo product publisher, view, apply, done. Now I go to my containers, I've got 2, the default 2 and the large column container. This is a different large column container that's actually a VTL file, but, or maybe it's not. That's actually in the new demo, it was made like that. Okay, so we're going to permission this guy. This guy happens to be a VTL file. It's part of our new functionality on .cms, so we'll have to go to the site browser to permission him. But default 2 is a normal container. We'll go to permissions, and we go to demo product publisher. We give view and apply. Okay. Now, we have made in 5.1.1 the ability for you to go into an application directory inside of the containers directory. If you make a folder called, inside of containers, this is a system set of folders, must be inside the application directory. It must be called containers, all lowercase, exactly like that. Then you can make a folder that acts like your container, and then it'll handle via files all of the different content types that can be assigned to a container, right? So the formatting for products, news, media, location, calendar events, blogs are all controlled by these files. And in this way, you as webmasters can manage via GitHub or something like that, all of your container code, as well as the widget code that goes on pages and everything. So it's all part of that move to controlling all of the programming files external to .cms and have that version control external to .cms. So all I would need to do is I would need to edit this folder to give permission to this type of new type of container. I go to permissions, permission individually, and my demo product publisher is already here. And really, I only need view and apply here. I don't really need to give access to the specific VTL files underneath. Just view to this large column container folder, right? Okay. So now, have I thought of everything? Almost. Okay. So now I've got the templates, I've got the containers, I've got everything, but what about these side navigation items over here? Well, what I suggest is all content publishers need the content tab. They probably need the site browser in some sort of limited form to upload files if it's a presentation layer type of implementation. And then they need the home tab to see their workflow tasks and what things have been assigned to them. So let's just set up one generic role that gives those three those three views, those three tabs on the left-hand side, and then never do it again for any content publisher, no matter what their role is. We just create a new role called demo, right? Keeping with that nomenclature. Generic publisher. Okay. Demo gen pub. And these little checkmarks are can I assign users to the role? Yes, I want to do that. Can I assign permissions to the role? Yes, I want to do that. Can I assign new tools to the role? Yes. You can take those away and lock it down later if you want to. Now, I would be done if I was doing a normal implementation that the validation was being done by Active Directory or something like that. But since I don't have an authentication system outside of .cms, now I have to create the user and actually assign the user to the role, which is pretty easy. So I go to users under system because I want to test these permissions immediately. So I'm going to add my son. and give them a password to this demo server. And then the second I've saved the new user role, I'm going to assign those two, the generic role and this role, over to this user. And I just need to do one more thing for the generic publisher role. I just need to assign the tools that I want it to see. So for generic publisher, I just go to tools. I don't want to permission it to anything else. And I want them to see the site editor. I don't want them to see all of this. The content tab and the home tab. Save. And I'm going to take off this legacy stuff here. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to take off the legacy dashboard. I don't even want them to see the dashboard. I just want them to see the workflow task manager. Oh, I didn't click save for this guy. All right, save. And then maybe on this, more than just the site browser, I want them to be able to see the time machine and the push publishing queue, but not templates and containers. So I just click here and I say I want also to see time machine. So I just type in time, add, and push publishing queue. And save, and I could drag those around in whatever order that I want. Okay, publishing queue. So if I wanted it to be publishing queue and then time machine, I could just grab and drag these around and change their order, whatever. But that actually looks like the right order. So I'm just going to, once again, I don't know why it looks like it's not checking it. I guess it's whenever you change it, it unchecks. Not sure why there. Okay, so that's configured. Let me click away, click back. Yeah, we're good. And the demo product publisher doesn't have any tools. So now we're going to go back to users. Just make sure we got both of those. And I should be able to log in as right now. Do a proxy login. That user. So here under home, there's just the workflow tasks, not dashboards or anything to be confusing, and there's no tasks that are assigned to him so far. Under site editor, I see the site browser. Under the site browser, I can only see the demo host, products, and images. There's two other folders inside of products, but I didn't give them any view to those folders. So everything's working perfectly. Can I change the name of the website? Would you want your content publishers to change the name of your website? I don't think so. So we right click, you can't do that. Do you want them to change the name of the products section of your website? No. Can I add new things inside of images? Yes, but I can't even change the name of the images directory. But if I go to create a new page, then what types of pages can I create? I can't create landing pages. I was only given permissions to page asset. Whenever we go to create a new page, what templates can I choose from? Should be only two, right? One column and two column with side nav. So everything's working perfect. Then I go to, can I see the time machine? Sure, yep, past and future. The push publishing queue, everything loading up here. Yep, status history, bundles. I could see yesterday I pushed, remember we pushed Godzilla to this server. Then under the content search manager, what content types do I have access over? We said we were going to have promotion, generic content, movies, the YouTube video. Can I create new YouTube videos? I shouldn't be able to do that. So I might be able to try. Or, yeah, I can't. So let me see, mutual funds. I will be able to search, but I should not be able to actually create, I don't think. Sure, mutual funds. And save. Says content saved. Okay, I thought I only gave him view. We'll have to go back and take a look at those permissions. I thought I only gave him view on that, but we'll take a look at that. If he only has view, he should not be able to create that new content type. If I click clear here and I go to generic content, he does not have permissions to see any pre-existing generic content, but can he add new content? He should be able to publish new content. Oh, yeah, I think it's the workflow. Yeah, see, it doesn't have any access. Let me see. What if we tried to save to the images directory? We save and publish. We should be able to publish this content there, and we see that new publish. So that's working just fine. If we go to try to create a new movie, can you see the categories? Because those are permissioned independently of the movie content type. So this is the big test here. In addition to doing this and uploading the poster, can we see the movie genres? Yes, we can. We can click in. There's nothing down below there. But under sci-fi, which is actually under page 3, there is a subset. There we go. Yep. So we're able to see everything and contribute that type of content. Can I relate to existing cast members? I don't actually remember giving any permissions to the cast member content type, so that's something that would have to be done. And if we click relate, we can't find anything, right? So that's right, because I never gave permissions to the cast members content type. So that would be something missing that we'd have to do. Look for those relationships while you're looking for those categories as well. So I would have one more thing. I would need a permission to set that up right, but I think you can see that everything is kind of working exactly as planned. Now, why can that user contribute that YouTube piece of content? I think it has to do with the workflow, because the workflow is using on the content type, it's using, if we look at simple widget, oh, not simple widget, we want the YouTube widget. Okay, this YouTube widget, if we edit it, it's using the system workflow. So this has got to be the culprit of our problem. Well, it's not a problem, but it's just why it was configured that way. And if I go here to workflow, this save right here must have anyone who can, edit content or something like that. There we go. Anyone who can edit content. So, what you would want to do is you would want to actually maybe just assign to a certain user role, contributors or something like that, and maybe not, do a broad sweeping, permission level like that. And that way that particular user role would need to be added here in order to actually click that save button and save the content. So, but workflow permissions, if they're given access to that save button, then what will happen whenever they click on it is it will save the content, right? So you have to make sure you look at your workflow permissions as well as your permission on your content type, because they work in conjunction, right? So any workflow action you want them to have, if the content type is using that workflow, you need to make sure that each of these buttons is permissioned appropriately to the right user roles, right? I already covered LDAP, parent roles and nested roles, system host. Okay, so by default, for something like generic content, if I create a new piece of generic content as my admin user, and I say it belongs in the blogs directory, this is generic content on blogs or for blogs, and I save it to the blogs directory, then if we look at it afterwards because it's got that host or folder field and requires it be saved there. Now, if we look at permissions, there is only CMS Anonymous. There is not the role that we just created. So if I log in as that Gabriel user again, and I go to generic content, I do not see that piece of content that I just created. Where does this user have the rights to see generic content? Only if it's saved to the host or folder fields that he has access to, and he only has that to the products directory. So where did he save this content, and where is it inheriting its permissions from? It's inheriting it from the images directory that's inside the products folder. Right? So only those users who have access to that specific directory and to see content within that directory would be able to see this generic content. Right? So that's why host or folder fields are really nice, and they keep things mutually exclusive. So you could have 1,000 user roles all able to contribute generic content, and none of them would see each other's content. Okay. Now let me do the reverse of that and show you why, it's a bad thing to not put host or folder fields on the content. So I come here as the administrator. I come to the content search manager, and I go to a content type called promotion, which I know does not have a host or folder field. This is a promotion made by marketers for marketers. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of copy whatever I need. But you notice there's no host or folder field. And whatever, I grab some image or something like that. All right. Sushi. And I save and publish. But where is it saving publish to? Only as a child of the content type, because there is no folder that's forcing me to save it by my permissions. So will this content be exclusive to any one group? Nope. Log in as Gabriel, who is not a marketer. But it really doesn't matter what group he belongs to. As long as he has access to create promotions, then he's going to see that content in the content search manager under promotions, which is why I think by default you never want to create a content type that does not have a host or folder field. Now, what if it's a free-for-all. Anybody who can create promotions, anyone can see anyone else's promotions. So how do I solve that problem? I go back to my promotion content type. I go to my promotion. Go to promotions. I put a host or folder field under title. Probably make it searchable, maybe required. I go back to my content. And I go back to that promotion that's marketers for marketers. And then I would give each marketer their permission to save only, maybe inside of the same exact directory as the product manager, but inside the marketing folder, right? And lock for editing and save and publish. Now Gabriel will not be able to see this content because it's adopting its permissions from the marketing directory, over which he has absolutely no permissions whatsoever. So now if I log back in as Gabriel Gonzalez, and I go to the content search manager, doesn't see it anymore, right? And if he goes to save any promotion, he's going to be forced to save not to system host, not to demo.cms.com. If he tries, he can't do it. The user has no permissions. He must save promotions to the directory that he has access to save things to, which would only be this images directory. He can't save content to demo. He can't save content to products. He must save it inside his images directory. That's the only place whenever we applied permissions on the folders that he has access to save child content or files. That child permissions on that directory is what allows the content to be saved there. That way you have tons of users using the same content type, news, generic content, and none of them can see any of each other's content except the people that can save to that specific area, right? So just best recommended practice there. Okay, so how do you create content that like is for everyone? Let me log out as that limited user. So let's just say on my site, I'm creating, let's just say this demo site was, South Florida Baptist Hospital. Okay. And I'm creating 1,000 more hospitals all on this website. They all have physicians listings. They all have medical news. They all have a lot of the similar stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my dynamic widgets once, and once only, never create them, even though I'm creating 1,000 different sites. And then, we'll have a break here shortly. So right after I finish this explanation. So right after permissions here, take a quick 10-minute break, and another 5 minutes, and we're done here with permissions. So I want to create global news that is like for CDC alerts or something like that for all of my hosts all at once. So how would I do that? How would I automatically go to news and events on any of my websites after contributing that one piece of content and see it everywhere, on all of them? Let's see. Quest. And I would see that as a top level piece of news. Oh, I must have changed the news query on this guy locally. Yeah, okay. Let me see if I can fix it real quick. Title, summary, pagination, 6, descending. Now I kind of want all 40 results. Save and publish. And do I not have news content? See if I got news content here. Yeah, I got news content. So if I go to my browser, unless I messed up something on my index page. This must have changed. Okay. So I could use demo.cms.com. Let me just use that. All right, so demo.cms.com/admin. And hopefully nobody's messed around with the news content here. Site browser, my index page. Okay, so I've got 40 different news sites. They've all got their own news listing here. And I want, no matter how many sites I have, I want, normally your news listing would pick up whatever is on your own host. And content types are meant to be reusable among multiple hosts, but on each host, you only pull the content that host has, the news that is assigned to that host using that host or folder field. So how would you create a CDC alert that appears on every single website? Something like that. So I would go to news, and instead of, whenever I create that new news content, so I'm going to put CDC alert, Zika virus found in southern okay. So then using this host site or folder, which you can see is set up just to contribute content on the host that I right now I'm currently on. So that means normally this would only appear on that one hospital or that one website. However, if you're an admin, you can switch it to system host, and this will make it appear globally on all websites. So I click, wherever it happens to be, put in something, put in a past date, so I'll just put in whatever, some story, save and publish. And now on this website or on any other website that is being managed by this .cms instance, that CDC alert should appear at the top of the news listing. Why would it do that for every site? See, there it is, top of the news listing, right? Now, why would it do that if it's not assigned to demo.icms.com? Because whenever we train webmasters how to build those dynamic polls, we show them how to build it using a search query. And in our search queries, we automatically pull the news on the host that you're currently on, which this is the identifier for demo.icms.com, plus global news that is assigned to system host. Now you can, while you're building your content, you could actually take that out and say, I don't want to pull global news as well. But by default, that's the way it's set up, so that you can't have global news if you want it that exists and persists across multiple hosts. Okay. And we'll get more into creating dynamic widgets that pull on one host or multiple hosts or dynamically depending upon the host that you're on in the web developer training. That's what the web developer is doing a whole bunch of code, which is velocity. So if you're not comfortable with any kind of coding or HTML, then the next web developer course would not be for you. But since this is a partner level training, then I assume all of you are. Okay, and the one last thing is locking roles, and we're done. And that will take only a few seconds for me to show. So I go to roles. If I already have a role set up, like the publisher legal role, and I don't want anyone to add new users or change it anywhere, I can right click and I can lock the role, right? So that publisher legal is now locked. So if I wanted to look at, let's see, the resources directory, where he has permissions, and I wanted to edit the permissions on that folder, go to permissions, that role is locked. I cannot change it. I cannot take it away. I cannot do anything to that role. All right. So if you want to lock down permissions so they can't be taken off, some other webmaster even is taking, the user role off of the content types. This is a way to kind of tell them, please stop doing that. Right. Now, if that webmaster is an administrator, they could still come to roles and tools. They could right click on the role, unlock the role, and then go back and do it. But that's just kind of like a visual cue to say, please don't take this role off of this content type. I've locked it down. It's perfect. Please don't change that role. Right. Just that one last thing I wanted to cover on permissions. Okay, so it's 10 after the hour. Let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break, come back at 20 minutes after the hour, and we will pick up with URL maps on content types, how to do any dynamic listing and detail page for any content type that you're going to create a dynamic listing for. See you in 10 minutes. Okay, let's go ahead and start back up with URL maps on content types. How do you set up things like dynamic listing of, in this case, we'll go ahead and do the movie content type. So if we want to do something like that, let me switch back over to that server I was on. So log out. We already have that movie content type. Okay, so I'm going to log in with my admin user. All right, and so I'm going to make sure I'm back to my demo site, and here under site browser, and we're going to create a new movies section. So I'm going to add a folder where my listing and detail page are going to be. Show and menu, sure. And I'm just going to create a movie listing, movie detail here. New page, show you how easy this is. Do 2-column left nav with sidebar. And I'll do the same, sort of look over here, and I am in this. Oh, I changed my quest theme here, so that's okay. Maybe what I'll do is I'll go to content types. Let me go to movies. I will add this to a bundle, call it movie bundle. Add cast to the same movie bundle, and go to my categories. Add my categories to my movie bundle, add to bundle, movie bundle, and maybe my content as well for my movies and my cast. Movies. Add to bundle, movie bundle, and then my cast as well, although they should come over with the add to bundle, movie bundle. And I'm pretty sure these are both running the same version, so it should work just fine. Now I go to my push publishing queue, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this over to demo so that I don't have this other templating that I created. So here's my movie bundle. I can download for publish. So that tar gzip goes to my publish folder. Now I'm going to just totally log out here, and I'll log into demo.cms.com. And then I'm going to go to push publishing queue. And that way I can upload just the content types and the content here. Upload bundle. Oh, well, I didn't choose anything yet. That would help. Downloads. Then that latest tar gzip today. Open it up. Upload that bundle. And then here we go. Wow, that was really quick. Okay, so it's already done. And now I should be able to see my content here. And content generic, movies. There we go. Okay, so I got my stuff over there, and Godzilla's looking good. Okay, so now let me go back to the site browser there. Now on this clean starter, let's go ahead and add that folder called movies, show on menu, save, and inside of movies, then we'll create those listing pages. New page, page asset. Save and publish. And now we just get our little movies over here, much cleaner. Site browser here, I'm going to do new page and movie detail. And save and publish. Okay, so I've got a listing page, I've got a detail page. Now I'm going to come over here. Well, actually, let's do the detail page first. I'm just going to set something up so it'll at least reveal something. And I'm going to put a simple widget. Well, let me show best practices. Okay. So what I would want to do if I was really doing any kind of dynamic coding and I was creating movie listings that I click on one of the movies and I go to this movie detail page is I would set up a WebDAV connection through CyberDuck, or I would through Finder in this case. Finder's a little bit flaky because it creates 0-byte files and then it tries to upload the file. So, Finder's got its issues there, but it usually works good enough and I can get around any of its, Apple weird behavior. So to connect to any server, you can just go right here in Finder to connect. I recommend CyberDuck, but I don't want demo.cms.com is what I want. And you just do a /webdev /live and a /1 if it's English, 2 if it's Spanish, or whatever other language you have connected. It's in sequential order whenever you install new languages. And I would connect to the server. So now I'm on the server. And let's say I'm going to, even though I normally wouldn't do this, I'm actually going to create a directory called, just so we can keep everything in one place, I'm going to create a directory called new folder VTL files, velocity template language files here. That wouldn't be showing menu, right? And I'm going to save my movie listing and my movie detail files here. So I'm going to open up my favorite text editor. Let me see. So I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code. And get rid of this other stuff I was looking at. And then I want to get rid of this. File, new file. And I'm going to file, save as. And I'm going to save it right to the server. So I'm going to go to demo.cms.com, inside of English, inside of the demo.cms.com directory, and then go into movies, and then inside of movies, into that side of that VTL, I'm going to create one file called movie velocity template language file, right? VTL. There we go. And I'm going to file new, file, save as. So here's going to be my movie listing and my movie detail. Okay. And now if we just click here and then click there, we see my movie listing. My movie detail hasn't shown up yet. Oh, I saved that. Oh, no, that's a detail. No, he hasn't shown up yet. So let me see. Let me see. Let me put something in it. Set. Movie equals, this is a system variable, URL map content, and then maybe I'll do an H1 and H2. And then maybe I'll do in a P tag. I'll do movie.description. Okay, and I will file and save as, make sure I'm saving in the right place. It probably didn't want to create it because it was 0 byte. And here I need to get something as well. So blah for now. File and save. Because .cms doesn't like 0 byte files. And if I click here, I click over here, why am I not getting my movie listing VTL? File, save as. Save him inside of the different directory. Okay, now I got my movie detail VTL. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close him, and I'm going to see, here I'm going to cut, move this, paste. Okay. Odd, now I'm seeing everything. Okay, so maybe it was just a cache thing. I don't know. So let me unpublish this guy, archive, show archived, and delete. Okay, now instead of detail, okay, so now I'm seeing both of them. Just a little cache thing there. File, open. Movies, VTL, movie detail. Okay, so I want to set movie equals URL map content. Do that again. And movie.description. Okay, and then my movie listing. What we do is anytime you want to create a dynamic pull of your content, you can go to your movies. Maybe I would probably put a release date or something like that. Let's just do it by title. Ascending, and we're going to show query, and then it'll give you your velocity for each loop right here. So I'm going to copy that out. I'm going to stick it right inside my movie listing VTL, and then we're going to include these VTLs on our pages. And so I want to do for each movie in, and I want to view here. Let's actually get this as a best practice. Let's do this. So make it easier to read, and I don't have to worry about where to turn on text wrapping or anything like that inside of my code. Let me drag this in. Okay. So normally you'd want to do something like this anyway. Set, maybe I'll call it movie query. And I make this a string. This is where you decide whether you want to include your system host or not, that all global content, or just pull your local host as well. This is a Lucene query. And then I would just set movie query down in here. It makes it a lot more easy to read your 3 different parameters here. The .content.pull tool just, does a query, a number that you want to pull, which you could set to 0 if you want to pull all of them. And then your sort order, is your content type name, then your field, and then whether it's, ASC, which is default, so you don't have to put it, or DESC for descending. Right? I'm just going to leave it movie title ASC, and maybe I want to put, this is just listing, so I'd want to do maybe a number, so we'll do velocity count. Which will just do a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for each item and a period after it. And that's just standard, velocity. Velocity is an Apache language. You could go ahead and type it out. At the beginning of Web Developer class, we'll go ahead and look at it. We're just doing some basics here. And then I would do an href. And here I'm going to put a path that I'm going to create. Movie.url title. And here I'm going to do /movies, or movie, since we're going to go to only one movie. And then here I'm going to do movie.url title. And anytime you're using a velocity variable, it should put a bang. So if it's null, if there's a null value, it doesn't spit out the variable on the page. And then curly braces to make sure if you're doing something like this, oh, I don't want that, I want this, that if you're calling that variable inside of parentheses or inside of another call, that it always takes the variable value. And so that's where we're going to href, and we're going to create the pattern for this, the URL mapped pattern. And then here, we're just going to spit out the movie title. And that's it. And then we're going to break after each one of those lines, or we'd put in a div and in a class, but we're just being expedient here. So, and there's only 2 movies anyway. So I'm going to file and save. So I've got 2 velocity template language files ready to actually do something. And now how do I hook them up in the system? So I'm going to go to each one of my pages and I'm going to parse those VTL files, right? So I don't want that. I want to actually go to my movies and I go to my pages. So there is a convenience widget here. So I can do widget, and I want to include, basically. So I can go to VTL include, create a new VTL include, and movie listing widget. And I can browse for that exact VTL file that is inside of movies and VTL and movie listing, and save and publish him here on this page, close him, and now I've gotten my velocity count and my href link to my detail page, which right now that path doesn't actually exist, right? So I've got that working. Now I need to go to my detail page and .parse the movie detail, and then I need to connect the URL mapping between the two. So I need to go to movies, well, that was the one we were just on, so let me go back, sorry. Movie detail page, I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to parse the files that I'm connected to via WebDAV. So I'm going to add widget over here, VTL include, movie detail widget, and I'm going to .parse that movies VTL, movie detail VTL. And he should do nothing until I actually, click over from a movie listing, and then I, click here. And it should have an if else and stuff like that. But we're just being quick to set this up. In the web developer course, we'll do much more. So now how do I path this so that a path called /movie, which doesn't exist, actually takes me to that detail page and loads up that URL map content variable? All you have to do is go here to types and tags, content types, go to the movie content type, and we can set that all up right here from the content type. I click edit on my movie's content type, and I must define a detail page if I want to URL map, right? So and I need to actually, before I do this, I need to set up an actual URL title field, which I don't have. So I'm going to drag, let me get a path to a widget here, VTL, custom fields. There's a URL title guy. What he does is he'll take the title, we could take a look at him, but this little widget, he'll take the title of any content type, take it, strip out the non-HTML, the URL friendly things like spaces and symbols and everything like that, and then it will assign it to the URL map, your URL title field. So you'll see URL title here. So as long as I name my custom field URL title, I can take the path to this guy. So I'm going to take the path to this guy, which is always on our starter, used quite a bit, and you could take it and manipulate it and make it do whatever you want. But I'm going to set up on my movies content type two things. I'm going to set up a custom field right underneath title, and I have to call it URL title, which will camel case, right? And then I just do a .parse of that file. .parse is an include statement, and I just include the path to that VTL file. And then it'll execute that code. And now I just go back to my two pieces of content. They don't have URL titles, and I would want to make it searchable too. Let me go back to movies, edit this guy. Oh, here we go. User searchable. Required, I might want to make it even unique. Show and list. Okay, you have to make it searchable for it to work, otherwise it will not work. And we would probably want title to be unique, which it already is. So then there's no worries. All our URL titles will also be unique. Now I go back to my movie's content type, and then my URL title will show. The only thing to get to do that URL title is I have to actually open up my content. But it's looking at my content type for a URL map pattern. So that's the second thing that I need to do. Then we can come back, open up our content, and save it, and we are all good. Now to get that URL map pattern, once again, we go back to our content type, we edit our content type, then we need to define a detail page, which would be /movies, and there we go, it auto completes. There's my movie detail page. So I click on it, that's my movie detail page. And then I update that, and I want to have a URL pattern as well. And I said that was going to be /movie in my code, right? And then the URL title, which is the velocity variable name. If I click update, right here, right? So it's going to be /movie /URL title, and it will look up each piece of content, find it, map it, and put it over on the detail page, right? So now the second I've done that, the only thing I need to do now is update my content, because now that they have URL titles, I just got to open it up. And now the code should automatically sense the pathing, find out movie, and then take the URL title, strip this off, strip the parentheses, strip the spaces, strip the semicolon, replace them with hyphens, and then I lock for editing, save and publish. Now he has a URL mapped title, which is showing right here. Open up Ratatouille. Now he has his, save and publish. And if I did my code right, that's going to be my URL on my dynamic listing. So, and then I think I just get a title and a description whenever I go from the listing to the detail page. But if I go to movies, I type on movie listing, I get my stuff. Now this should resolve no matter how many movies I put in the system. I click here, I go to Godzilla King of Monsters. Now let's look at it in an incognito window so we can actually see those URL maps. So let's go to incognito /movies. Oh, I don't have a landing page. Movie listing. There we go. So I click on Godzilla. I get a URL map pattern here that is SEO optimized, right? And if I click on Ratatouille, he loads. And if I wanted to add a new movie here, I could add a new movie and it would just work, right? And that's what you want. You want your content contributors just add some new movies. So going to know about you guys, I'm going to see my superhero movie tonight. Let me see if you look up. There we go. So I click here and I go to save my little image, put it on my just crowded, overloaded desktop, which I really need to clean up. And then I'll get my description, action, adventure, fantasy, sure. And I'll choose my poster from my desktop. Here's my Avengers, and I'll paste my description, action, adventure, fantasy, and Marvel, whatever I want to do. And save and publish this content. We can see he's going to get the right URL title. Save and publish. And if I go back to my movie listing page, refresh, now I've got Avengers Endgame here. I click and I get that automatically as well. So your content contributors can focus on just what they're best at, is creating the new pieces of content. They don't need to worry about pages at all, or URL map patterns or anything like that. They just type in the title and they fill out these easy to fill out fields. They relate their cast, and then it should automatically pull inside of the widgets on the page. As a best practice, I've made it so that I'm connected to these files without actually being logged into the backend. I can use my favorite text editor, and if I want to put a poster now on the detail page, I could let me just grab a little bit of code here. And we'll put that poster on the page as well. Okay, and So here's my movie detail. So I'll put right here. And this is how you can do different images or different media sizes depending upon how. This, by the way, content identifier is the way you would access that identifier from a container, which I was looking for the other day. But that's not the way we would do this here. Let's just do this with only one option here. There we go. Keep it simple. And you don't even need to manually construct this DA pattern if you're in the middle of an href, in the middle of a loop, or you've already got your content. What I can do is for my binary pattern here, I can just do movie.poster, which is the name of the field, .shorty URL. Since I'm in velocity, I'm not inside of a container. Otherwise, I would need that other methodology. And then I can binary resize just by doing 280 width. Maybe I'll just make that 200. This would be movie.description or movie.title, whatever I wanted to use for my image source. And that should work. Okay. File, save. I just save my movie detail, and now let's go to Avengers Endgame here, the front end, and there's our poster. Right. So the nice thing is you really don't need to be on the back end at all. You can just, sometimes whenever I have, full screen, I'm not magnifying for the purposes of a webinar. I'll put my, front end or back end, my authoring server, whatever I'm working on, and I'll have kind of, on the same screen, both what I'm looking at and then what I'm coding in the same place, so that then I just make a change here, I save it, and then I just refresh on the other screen, and I can see my code instantly. So I think that's it for as far as we want to go for the introduction to how listings and detail pages work. If you have any questions, feel free to hit them into the control panel. But I am going to then finish off the agenda with rules engine and personalization. Okay, and then we will do question and answer, and we'll wrap up for this last session, and we will pick up again in the web developer course. Okay, so let's just say that I want to set up a persona for someone who likes movies. So the first thing I would do is I would come to the content and I would define a persona, right? I want to define a visitor type. So I'm going to add new content, and I'm going to say, and just so we can show the geolocation, I'm going to call it movie lover in Costa Rica, and use a little bit of geolocation here by country. So if I did want to identify myself in that way, because I am speaking to you from Costa Rica right now from our office, so I'm going to just choose the Avengers poster. Oh, here's a cool one. That doesn't make any sense, but here we go. Let me save something. All right, so I am going to choose a golden frog. Called Ronda de Oro. Golden frog. I'll reload my desktop. And where's my golden frog? And that's going to be my photo. The golden frog of Costa Rica, right? And then I'm, visiting website from Costa Rica. And however I wanted to identify the user, I, just define it. And now I can set up a rules engine rule, which is going to target this type of visitor. So I'm going to go to marketing and rules, and I'm going to set up a new rules engine rule. So I'm going to add a rule called Costa Rican movie lover, right? And I'm going to fire it when, here's my conditions, and then here's my resulting actions, right? So I'm going to say if the current URL happens to be / movies, right? I'll say starts with / movies. Or, well, and visitor's country is I guess I had to click that first. Costa Rica. So if both of those are true, then set persona movie lovers in Costa Rica. Okay. Now you can do all sorts of things. I'm just giving you a what if, and you can add as many conditions or actions as you want via OSGI without even stopping your .cms server. So you can extend these and make them whatever you want, but you can set, add tags to a visitor, redirect request, set a request attribute, a response header, set a session attribute, whatever you want to do. And here under the different, thinking browser language, their device type happens to be mobile, anything that you can think of pretty much. You can geolocate and set within 50 miles of, a certain location. So I'm just doing something simplistic. Now I would have to turn this on, right? And so two things have to happen. I have to be in Costa Rica, and I have to be, hitting a URL that starts with / movies. Now I can't be an incognito window. So what I'll do is I guess I'll just go ahead and log out. And I'll hit demo.cms.com. And we see the flyout here. We do see the little golden frog here in the middle, movie lovers in Costa Rica, on our flyout on our demo. And here's movies, right? So if you click around anywhere else, no golden frog, I'm not identified, I'm just an anonymous user. So it's not just picking up that I'm in Costa Rica and automatically assigning me to this. You see there's no blue highlighting around it. But if I click here, this should take me to, I don't have an index page. So let me take care of that. Maybe I want to log in an incognito window. And demo.cms.com /admin. Yeah, 404 page doesn't count. Let me fix that. And make my movie listing my index page. Site, browser, and movies, and movie listing, page properties, and make this index. so that this is the default page that will resolve if I just hit /movies, and now I hit it, and now it automatically resolves me. And since I've satisfied the two-part condition, one, I am in Costa Rica, and then two, I have hit /movies. Now it's resolved. It's not a 404, which that doesn't count. It automatically associates me with the movie lovers in Costa Rica persona, and now it is accruing that, and is keeping track of me as a movie lover in Costa Rica. And then I could pull personalized, which we do have personalized pulls of news. Let's see. Let me, right now I don't have any banners associated with Costa Rica. I don't have any footers, although we do have on our, let's see. I want to make a news article up here. We do have our news pulling personalized. So if you look here at our news and events, and we look at our news index, and we just look at in edit mode, we can see that there is a tool here in this personalized news listing VTL, which it's got a lot of stuff in it, but I only want to go down to the bottom, I think. And we'll pop it up in this. And right down towards the bottom, that's pagination. Here we're using this method .content.pull personalized. Okay, so it's going to take the persona into account in the query and prioritize the items that are personalized. So since the news listing is already doing that, all I have to do is, for the session I already have in the other browser, create a piece of news content that, so I'm going to create I'm going to actually edit an old piece of content, the gas price roller coaster. Yeah. Allow. And I'm going to take retiree off, and I'm going to put movie lovers in Costa Rica. And you can see that's a persona tag on your tag fields. You can then, the second you create a persona, if you start typing the name of a persona, it'll automatically appear here as a tag, and you will notice that it is a persona tag, which has a 100 tag score weight in the algorithm as compared to the rest of the tags. If I save and publish that, even though this is an older piece of news, 6/29/2011, then because that's pulling personalized, I should be able to now, in my front end, then go to, actually the home page is using that same one, I think. Demo.cms.com. Oh, is he reloading? Oh, I had everything blown away. Demo just got reloaded. Great. So that's reloading. But that would have then rearranged my content in my news listing and on my news page and pulled that personalized item first in my news listing anytime it's pull personalized at 12 a.m. and 12 p.m. The demo site resets. But that's how you set it up. That's what will happen on your dynamic news listing. And whenever this comes back, unfortunately now my persona is gone, my rules engine rules is gone. But you could test it by clicking on any of the personalized personas that the demo site has, and it'll automatically resort everything. I'm going to be logged out here on the back end as well. But that's about as far as I wanted to go inside of inside of the current agenda for rules engine. You can set up all sorts of rules. And here on .cms.com is all of the documentation for personalization. Everything that we just covered. So we can click on personalization. And here's personalization rules, visitor object, personas, pulling personalized content using .content.pullPersonalize. Everything is here, and including everything that I just showed you is already in the online training courses. So if you wanted to, I'm going to send out the videos for everything that we've done within the last 3 sessions. But if you went to Content Architect and you wanted to know how to, use the rules engine and personalization, it's the last video, video 18, and there's 20 minutes, on how to set up rules engine and personalization. So all of that is there as well. Right now for you online, already separated by topic, which I think is better than actually the recording of this video, which is going to be, session 1, session 2, session 3, and, a few hours inside of each that you would have to sort through. If you just come here to .cms.com, courses and videos, you have everything broken up by topic, which you don't have to slog through a whole bunch of, video content. And it's already in the 5x version, so everything should be relatively the same. And right now we are updating the new relationships, which is new in 5.1. We're updating that so that you'll be able to see shortly the videos on how to search and relate content using one-sided relationship fields. So we update these all the time. Any questions before we end up closing out today's session? Okay, I'm looking in the chat area and I do not see any. Well, I hope it was helpful. Just to let everyone know, we do have a web developer training session, which is starting up